Hey y'all, hey, you are watching and listening to Lex Between the Lines. Of course, I am your host, Lex. I'm so excited, especially about our co host today. But before we get into it and I let her introduce herself, let's go through the trigger warnings. For the most part, I try to stay in between the lines, but sometimes if you have been listening, I tend to cross them just a little. So that is trigger warning number one. The second thing is there may or may not be explicit adult language, depending on my emotions, how heightened I get. There may or may not be sexual content discussed. There may or may not be talk of violence because we're talking about a mafia romance. Of course, there's violence in the book. So take these as your trigger warnings. If you decide to continue with us, thank you. And without further ado, I am going to introduce New York Times bestselling author. You know what? I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I am Katie Ashley, and I'm a New York Times, USA Today, and Amazon top three best-selling romance author. Yay!
I'm so excited for you. Like, that's a
It
big
is.
deal.
It is, like when I hit it in 2012, there was something in our newspaper. It was funny that you had the same odds of hitting the lottery was going on. And so it said you had the same odds that week of hitting the lottery as you did the New York Times. And I was like, oh my God, because I still couldn't believe it. And I was lucky I got to make it a couple of times with different series and all. And it was an honor. Now it's so hard for indies to do it. So I'm so thankful that I had my moment to do it because now, you really have to, they don't let indies on the list unless, a publisher is distributing them. So I was
What?
just, yeah, yeah. And then awful. Like USA Today is pretty much the same way now too. But when I started, you could be an indie because one week I was on the ebook list and I was on the trade, like the print or whatever.
Mhm.
And now they've taken it, yeah, you know, pissed it indies, I guess, for all of our independent success and everything. So
I
yeah,
did
that
not
part
know that.
sucked.
So
Hmm.
that's a little piece of information that I did not know. Is there a
This
reason why
happened.
they?
I want to say like New York Times happened like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. And then USA Today was like the last holdout that indies could still do. And I want to say it's been in the last 2 years, maybe. Because I remember thinking, oh, thank God I made a list. Because now, unless I went traditional, I don't even have the option. So yeah, that part sucks.
So
But
this is a recent change. Now I'm gonna have to
it is a
research so I
recent
can reach
change.
out.
Yeah, yeah. And it sucks. I know HD Carlton made it the other day, and she is distributing Haunting Adeline through a publisher, but like she still holds most of her rights. So it's really exciting for another sort of like she's still sort of indie and she's made it. So yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know
So
they be
which
bitches.
book?
See, we didn't make it 5 minutes and I'm blowing out the profanity already. So, sorry.
Look, at least it wasn't me this time first, because
It's
sometimes it be me
me.
and it'd be
Everybody
like,
thinks I'm this genteel Southern lady, and then with my accent, and then I don't know. It's
where are
always
you
been me.
from?
I am from about 45 minutes north of Atlanta, Georgia, in the mountains.
Okay.
I live on 2 acres, so it's really cool. We have some horses up the road that don't belong to us, but we get to like go and pet them, and my 9-year-old loves that fact. So, but we're also still 5 minutes from a Target and a Chick-fil-A, so it's like I get the best of both worlds. It's like a little rural, and then I don't have to feel like I can't get DoorDash or something like that. So yeah, that part helps. It's like I like being a little bit out, and then but I don't want it to be, um,
Too far.
yeah. Hmm.
Which book was it that got you on the New York bestselling Times?
The proposition is the book that launched me, and I had been in the young adult world. I'd had two agents to almost book deals, and where they went to the acquisitions meeting and died. And so that summer, well, that spring is when 50 Shades had hit, which now it's kind of hilarious that because we all thought 50 Shades was like, oh, and now we're like, oh my God.
It's
It's so vanilla.
okay.
It's still vanilla. But so my friends in the writing world, we were like, hey, we challenged each other. It's like, let's write an adult scene. Like, we'd had kissing and some naughty stuff in our young adult, but nothing like that. So I didn't even have character names for the book then. I wrote the office baby making scene. And then it was like, okay, let's write this, because another one of my buddies, she was in young adult, but she put out an adult romance, hit the USA Today, was like quitting her job. So I was like, damn, I got to do that too. So I started on the proposition, and an agent had told me, you really need to write what you. I told her about having to go to my great aunt's lingerie shower single. And she was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. You should write that. I'm like, no, I write to escape, not to write, like having to be single and seeing your great aunt unwrap handcuffs and stuff, because there was a gag gift that was given and all this stuff. My 70-year-old great aunt's lingerie shower. That is in a book, actually. It's called Drop Dead Sexy, but that's another story. But she was like, no, you should write, and so at that time I was a 32-ish gal, and wanting to get married and have a baby and all that. And so that's kind of what the proposition is. The girl's biological clock is clanging, and her gay best friend says, oh, hey, I'll do it, and then he backs out. And the company man whore, so it's an office romance in case you guys are interested in genre, who really wanted to sleep with her at the Christmas party, and she told him no, is like, hey, I will offer up my DNA if you and I can conceive this child naturally. So that is the naughty proposition. And so they start baby making, and it kind of grows into something more.
Wait,
And
what book? Wait, what book is this?
it's called The Proposition. Yes. And I put
Completely.
it out in October 30th, 2012. And then within 3 weeks, I was on the New York Times bestseller list. It was crazy. And it was the most amazing blessing. In 2012, I lost my grandmother, who had been like my mother after I lost my mom when I was 23. And she had been my strongest champion in my writing. Every time I got an agent or almost deal, she was like, I don't know if this is the book, but I know it's going to happen. It's all going to happen for you. And she passed away in May. And that was the only thing that kept me sane, was writing, this book, because she was like a spouse. I mean, I was at her house every day. She lived 5 minutes from me, and it was just so sudden. And, so then that October, literally from May to October after losing her, I put the book out, and I was a teacher, and I quit teaching in that January. Sorry, at the end of by that time, December, I could quit, and then started going to signings and was leading this way incredible, like amazing, blessing life, all because of this book that I wrote about wanting to have. That was my own desires of wanting to have a baby. My own gay best friend would not be the sperm donor I thought he was going to be, because that's a little bit of my own story later on of having my daughter. And yeah, so unfortunately, I did not have an Aiden to
I
have for
have
my own.
got to go. That is my kind of book. I'm
Thank
surprised I haven't
you.
come across it.
I mean, it's 2012. You got to be extreme OG to have probably read The Proposition. But yeah, it was such, it's still, when people say, well, what's your favorite book of yours? Because I've written almost 30. And I'm like, well, they're like children. You can't pick a favorite. I mean, each one brings something, pulls out an experience, does something. But like I said, that book saved me in so many ways, and changed my life in so many wonderful, amazing ways. And kind of like I'm feeling about Poison and Wine in this series right now, is it pulled me out of a terrible writer's block of people kind of not reading me for a lot. So now that people are discovering it and enjoying it, it feels a little bit like a renaissance, a rebirth.
Because that's how I discovered you, from Poison and Wine. How long had it been
Yes.
since? Was it like a big gap when you did Poison and Wine since your
I
last book?
Let's see. I had a book come out in 2020 in January, right before COVID, and then COVID, was like caca, and
Yes.
I did not put out another one until I think 2021. It's called The Actress and the Aristocrat. It went on submission. It almost sold. It didn't, and it's for some reason I don't know what happened. People just did not embrace it and did not really read it. Then to this past December, I put out the son of the Propositions characters, who I'm like, everybody always wants the son, they want the second
The
generation and
second
everything.
generation.
And I don't know if I just, I didn't whore myself out like I did with Poison and Wine, of messaging all the, I thought, okay, I think I have something with Poison and Wine, and Mafia is really big. I thought my hook was, pretty good, of the fact that Katerina is trying to escape her family. So she hasn't taken her final vows, but she is a nun, so I'm like, oh, okay. So if this happens, surely, so I kind of put more into it than I did the Pursuit. But yeah, there was like a 4-year period that I only put out 2 books. And in reference, it'll be 3 books for this 1 year that I'm doing. So that's kind of the difference. So I don't know what happened. I always think about such a random. I make the most random analogies, but I grew up on Coal Miner's Daughter by Loretta Lynn, and
I
her husband's
freaking
not like,
love.
oh my god, yes. So
Listen,
her husband's like, why don't you stay off the road? And she's like, no, you don't understand. If you're not on the road, they forget about you. And that's not that my readers forgot about me. It's just the reading world changed so completely since 2020. I mean, TikTok exploded. People like my first signing was with Colleen Hoover. We signed at a bar. We didn't even have tables. Like, just the whole trajectory of even her career. Like, she's always been big in the indie world. Um, and then she got, bigger, but then TikTok just took it to the stratosphere. And so just seeing the way TikTok changed people, it's like, I want to go on and hold a sign and be like, please make me go viral. I'll be the viral whore. That's fine. Pick me, choose me, love me. But yeah, it just changed so much. And I was just going through such an emotional, kind of tumult with having such trouble writing. And I have TMI if you're a man listening, or having a hysterectomy, but something in my brain chemistry kind of changed too. I feel like I have adult ADHD. Squirrel. See, I'll do that because it's like how my brain works now is so very different. And so I just feel like that, it was just such a hard time. And then to get this series idea to come really out of nowhere, rereading my favorite series, Black Dagger Brotherhood. Z is my favorite, if anybody loves that series. And I was rereading his book, and Quinn and Isla's story just came to me so strong. But I was like, no, that needs to be the second book. He's not the leader. He's the enforcer. I gotta. And so then that's how that book, came to me. And it was just like, I felt like it
and
was
I
such
was
a.
wondering who you were gonna write after Callum. I was like, who did, first of all, I
Mhm.
wanted to ask, how did Poison and Wine come about? Like, how did you get a nun? And even though she went a nun and she's from like the Mafia family, but I was like, how the heck did she get from the Mafia family to run from her dad to a nunnery and then this Irish? Like, where did this come from?
Right. I mean, I am part Irish, so I love all things Irish. And so I actually, when I thought this would make a good Mafia book, I started reading a lot of Mafia. Shout out to Cora Riley. I love her books. They're actually Italian, they're not Irish. But I loved her series. In fact, I'm signing with her at Authors in the Bluegrass, and I have nerded out and like ordered way too many books on her pre-order. She's gonna be like, Katie Ashley's ordering, what the heck? But totally loved her. Love Silent Vows by Jills Ramsower. Neva Altaj, I think is her name. I don't know how to do this spelling.
I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I
Adore
freaking
her
love
books.
Jill.
Oh my god, love her books. Love her books. So I've done rereads on Cora's book. I've done rereads on hers. So once I started getting into I was like, okay, I'm gonna, you're always supposed to read what you're gonna write about. So I started reading some Mafia, and there was one book I want to say where a priest was really some kind, and I was like, I should do it where, the girl is really forbidden. She's not supposed to be, either she's been hidden away in convent or she's chosen to live in a convent. And The Sound of Music is my favorite movie too. So it's kind of like bringing all that in. I was like, what if there's a girl who um tries to escape. She knows her father, that she can't. There is no escape, because even if she changes her name, they'll drag her back and everything. But what if he fears God enough that she can get away with being a nun, and he won't screw that up because he does fear, eternal damnation or whatever. So that's kind of where that part of it came. But like I said, in Z's book, in Black Dagger Brotherhood, he's a scarred hero. He doesn't like to be touched. And then Bella is like his angel, and he wants to save her. And
Mhm.
through her, he just, I mean, it's just a beautiful book. I would recommend it. I won't spoil too much, but no, Bella is not a stripper. That came, Isla is a stripper just on her own. Like that came from them owning the club and all of that. But their idea really came first. But I knew that shouldn't be the first book in the series. I was like, okay, he's going to be the enforcer, where he has to do a lot of the bad things, and he's seen a lot of darkness, but she's going to be his light. But we've got to get the leader in there. So that's kind of where Callum's book came in. Is like, okay, he's going to be the leader, and we're going to combine my love of Irish people along and mafia along with Italian mafia. So that's kind of where that came up.
I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, are we gonna get a chance to see them go back to like the motherland, or are we gonna see them like take it back? Because I know a lot of people say that there's a lot of like Irish or Italian, and it's based in like the states and stuff. Are we
Hmm.
gonna get a chance to see them actually like
Hmm.
one of them to move back, or you know
Not
whose story
yeah.
I'm really looking for? The
Uh-huh.
sister.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I know you hadn't had a chance to read Dust to Dust yet. So there is
Mm-mm.
toward the end of the book where Quinn goes back to Belfast. He doesn't want to be in Boston anymore because of whatever, he can't the obstacles with Isla or whatever. So
Okay.
he makes a stopover to see her in Dublin though. And there's a really cool scene that just came out of nowhere to where she really gets to where Maeve is in it, and she gets to be very kick-ass. And originally, like I said in the back of the Poison and Wine, I did not mean for Maeve and Rafe to be together. It was something where I wanted him to be pissed off at the reception, so the brother was going to ask to dance with her, and it was just going to be a nice moment. And then it was just like, no, these two are supposed, there's something supposed to be with them.
Because the chemistry
So
was
I
chemistry, and
chemistry was and it, you'll hear authors say the characters do what they want to, and it sounds hokey. I'm way serious. It really does do that, because that wasn't even really supposed to happen. I mean, she was always such a driving force. Originally, was going to have it because mafia men are such assholes that 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 Callum and Quinn and Dara or Dare were going to be a family, and then their dad's side piece chick's family was Kellen and Maeve and Eamon. And then I was like, I knew her what happens to her, trigger warning, her sexual assault is so important to all the brothers. I was like, no, they need to be it doesn't need to be a side piece, because mafia men are like that. A lot of them, and so they have, yeah. So I
they're
nixed
not
that.
faithful.
They are not faithful, no, but my men are. My men are very faithful and all that. But so yeah, it became where they are this all one family and everything. And then now I've lost where I was going with all that before I said what I did about the family part. See, ADHD, I swear, it's like as an adult I have it so much. I feel for my former students because I never understood it, and God Almighty, now I do. But yeah. But going back to the motherland, yes. So he is, excuse me, she's in Dublin in school. You'll see her and Quinn in Dublin, and then in Maeve's book, definitely there will be a time where they're in Dublin and then maybe Belfast. But
Is there a
yeah.
timeline for Maeve's book? Because when I tell you, I'm like,
Oh, it's
ever
November.
since
It's
her and
coming.
Ray were together dancing at the reception, I
Yes,
was like,
I
I need
know.
this.
No, it's November. Like that was not supposed to happen. I originally had my agent pitch this series because I'm like, okay, maybe I need another pub deal. I need something to feel like I'm back amongst the writing world. And so it went out. Actually, because I only had written 3 chapters, and so in the traditional world, a lot of times you can sell on 3 chapters, and sometimes you can't. So they tried it with just my original publisher, Penguin, and they were like, no, we're not really sold on Mafia. And so it came back to me, and my agent was like, if you'll finish it, we'll go out with it again. We'll sub it to, all the publishers, not just my old editor or whatever. And I was like,
Hmm.
I really need to get a book out, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to go ahead and write it. And now I forgot. Oh, the reason with the books, yes. So when it went on, God, so they're gonna be like, that lady, she's on something. But when it first went out, you have to outline the next 2 books or tell them what it's going to be about. So Quinn's book was always number 2, and Dare's book was supposed to be number 3. Like that was the way it was supposed to be. And then everybody was just like, oh my God, is Rafe and Maeve going to get a book? And it was so wonderful too. You want people to embrace your book and you want them to care enough about your characters. I mean, it would really suck if people were like, I just don't give a shit if they get a book, or I don't care which one. But everybody was so much that I put the author's note in the end because I got feedback and they're like, oh, we really want to read this book. Well, I talked to my beta partner. She's been with me since March of 2013. So she's read everything. And I torture her all the time with things. And she was like, I really think you need to do Rafe's book next. And I'm like, yeah, but if I did Dare's, then I'm making them wait and I'm dragging them along. She's like, nah, I would go ahead and do it. And then, because in a way, and the blurb will come out, Dare's book he's a womanizer. He does not want to get married. He doesn't want to be in an arranged marriage. And so it's going to kind of turn out that, it might be a secret baby one or a secret child one.
Oh, I
So
love a secret baby.
yeah, yeah. So, and then she did not want any part of the mafia world with him. And so she left. And so now she's come back to help because she's got a kooky, crazy, stalkery boyfriend. And he's like, okay, fine, but you're going to have to be with me. And then he's angry because she
Has
kept
she
this.
had the baby already, or is the baby a couple years
It's
old?
going to be there. Yes, it's there. I know. So that will be, let's see, that one comes out in November. That will be in February. Yeah, Dare's book will be February, but Rafe and Maeve's, to cut a long story short, is November. And that's how, it ended
That's
up
this
happening.
November, right? This
Oh yeah, that's
November.
November. Because once I saw, that's another thing too, when I talk about the Loretta Lynn thing that I lost myself on a minute ago. But if you don't stay prevalent in this world, that's why so many authors are releasing every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. People do forget about you because they're just so used to, it's not like back in the day when authors would, Stephen King would put out a book a year, Danielle Steele would put out a book. You have to stay so relevant. So like Loretta, I got to hit the tour bus road and start putting out, several. And in between there somewhere, I really do want to get the Why Choose Hockey. I have 10,000 words of it. It's gotten done. I know exactly what's going to happen. And my agent was like, okay, if you finish this, we'll go out with it too. And so I'm just kind of debating because I don't, with traditional publishing, they could accept this in March, but it won't come out for another year or two. And by then people could be tired of Why Choose. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's been pretty strong for the last 2 years. And
So you got
hockey
to strike while
romance.
the
I
iron's
mean,
hot.
that's the thing. That's the part of it. So she had actually, my agent had checked in with me the other day, and I was like, well, you see, I got these 2 Mafia books done because I need to get them out. I was like, but I swear, I think I'll have it to you by Christmas. Publishing kind of shuts down during the Christmas holidays, and so it wouldn't really go out on submission until January. But I'll have to see if I get it done. That might be something I want to put out myself. But don't tell Jane that.
That's your
Jane, I'll
agent,
write you
Jane.
something else. That is Jane Distel. She's amazing. She's at Distel and Godrich. She's also Colleen Hooper's agent, so I can sound cool saying that we have the same agent. But yeah,
Not you and Colleen got the same agent.
I
You
know
know
we
what?
do. Like that. That's how I get to feel relevant with everybody because they're like, oh my God, do you know Colleen Hoover? I'm like, yeah, I've even texted with her before. And they're like, oh, it's like at the pool, like we belonged to a pool, and so the little lifeguard there had the book, and I was like, oh, I know where I'm gonna. And that was the year I signed another one at Book Bonanza, and I was like, I'm gonna be signing with her. She's like, oh my God, I'm like, I know. It's like I get to be secondhand cool just from Colleen's stuff. So
Did you
yeah,
go
I
to
mean,
her premiere?
I did not go to the premiere. I was supposed to sign at Book Bonanza this year. This is what is the Katie Ashley look. So I had signed the very first year. I think I've signed there 3 times. And it's an amazing event. I mean, everything goes to charity. Everything is so well run. But Colleen's whole family's there. Like the last year I was there, I got to hug her. I was in the elevator with her mom, and so I was like, "Oh my God, Benoit, let me hug you." So I always love signing there. Well, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this year off because we just thought it was going to keep on going, So I was like, I'll do 2024 instead of this year. So then we hear they come out and say, okay, so last year was the last Book Bonanza. We're not doing it anymore. I'm like, mother trucker. Like if I'd known that, I would have gone. And then what do? They pile everybody up on buses and take them to go see the damn movie. And I didn't.
Well, dang.
Yeah, Jenna Bush was there the year I was there. So I was telling my bestie, who's my daughter's godmother, she went with us last summer because I'm paranoid and my daughter travels with us. Like I don't like to leave her behind. So she was going to, and so Christy kept her while I was doing all my stuff. So she was like, "Oh my God, Jenna, the Today Show's here. It's so exciting." So I called her. I was like, "Christy, I hate to tell you this, but yeah, Blake Lively was there, and we took everybody to the movies." You're like, that's my luck. That always happens to me. Like I'll choose to do stuff, but it was an amazing experience when I got to do it, and I was so grateful. Like I said, Colleen and I mean, she was already out when I started. She had started publishing in 2011, but I remember reading Slammed and loving it and seeing her success and Abby Glines and a couple of other independent authors. That because back then self-publishing was like you had the scarlet letter. You did not want to self-publish. It was the last resort. And at that time I had an agent and I wanted to be in bookstores and things because I had this Southern literary Christian fiction, which is you're going to say, really, did you, Katie? I've read you. Are you sure you had one like that?
I was just
All
gonna say
close.
you had a Christian book.
I had a Christian, sort of Christian fiction, but it was funny because I'm always the Goldilocks. It was too Christian for that, and this was my young adult too. It was too Christian for the secular publishers, and too religious for the other or whatever, or not enough Christian enough. Anyway, it's basically like a tequila. It was like a To Kill a Mockingbird, Fried Green Tomatoes, Southern Depression
Hold
era
on, Miss
novel, all
Katie.
this stuff.
Hold on. We're
When
gonna
I
take a
told you
quick
I wrote
commercial
everything,
break. Look,
I,
we're gonna take a
okay,
quick commercial break. And as soon as we get back from this commercial break, I want to talk
okay,
about this Christian fiction.
I
Cause
know,
what? Coming
I
from the
know,
Mafia Queen.
I know.
We're gonna be right back, y'all. Don't go anywhere.
It's about tradition, value, and community. We're Creed, and we're proud to call Northeast Louisiana home. Catherine and I raised our family here, we worship here, and we serve here. It's an honor to support the community that has given us so much. Tradition, value, and community. That's Creed. If you've been injured in an accident, call Creed today. Proudly serving this great community for over 25 years.
Okay, guys, so we are back and I'm ready to dive into this Christian fiction.
I
Can
know, it's
we
so shocking. But if you look at all my books, there's faith in all of them. I am actually Baptist. There's a lot of Catholicism obviously in Poison and Wine and Dust to Dust because they're Irish Catholics. The same in The Proposition. He's an Irish Catholic, and there's usually some reference. I don't want to be preachy. I'm not that. I mean, I am a naughty Christian if I'm anything, but because I drink, I curse, all that kind of stuff. I write books with no words, as my 9-year-old says. But this book it's called The Road to Damascus. It was kind of like an ode to Fried Green Tomatoes and To Kill a Mockingbird, The Green Mile, Stephen King's book, because it's set in the Depression. It was all, and on a serious note, I mean, I grew up where race was an issue, and I wanted to write somewhere where there could be a utopia where we all got along, we're not got along, but everybody was accepted as they are, and that what heaven really is, where there is no color and all of that. It's just
mm-hmm.
so I wrote this, and I wanted it to be a nice little have symbolism and literary devices like that I taught and
So was
all.
there like
And
interracial dating in there too?
there wasn't there. It's basically, it's the tried and true. There's a man who's accused of a crime he didn't commit. And, it's this girl who lived from the mountains and a rich cotton baron. And they get together, and it's her trying to teach him, the value of life, and meeting this man along the way who's been through such terrible things because of this cotton baron's family. And, it was just, it's a romance. I mean, that was so hard. It was so hard to sell because it's a romance, but it's also like literary fiction. And it was just, but it was also like I told you on the break. I mean, when you were like Christian fiction,
But Miss
and I
Katie,
mean,
where does the whorehouse take place?
chapter 2. Well, Jackson is a wayward man. He's at the whorehouse. He has to meet Sarah on the road to Damascus. So like I said, it was, I'm still very, I'm proud of it because it was the first thing I ever wrote. I was nearing 30 and I was like, you've always wanted to write a book. I was been a teacher. I wasn't coaching cheerleading that year. And I was like, this summer, by God, you're sitting down and you're going to write a book. And so I started, and I still look back. There was some TikTok the other day that was like, what are your most amazing writing experiences? And just thinking, I mean, I would stay up all night writing, and it was like I was in that community, that beautiful place where everybody, could love each other, and it would be, and it was an amazing summer, and nobody wanted to publish it. So I did, this is the whole point of this, going back again, squirrel, was the whole self-publishing thing. So I had an agent at the time, and I was like, look, my late grandmother, she wants me to, she wasn't dead then, sorry. My grandmother was like wanting me to put it out because she was just the first time she read it. She's like, honey, where I get my vices from. While we were sitting on her back porch while she's smoking, front seat Baptist woman, and she's out there smoking. She's like, you're going to be on Oprah and Larry King. This is amazing. Like, her belief in me was just so, so many people go through where their family doesn't support their writing. And she was just telling everybody, and she's like, I want you to put this book out. If you can't sell it, at
Wait,
least some
Grandma had
people
read your
enjoy it.
books? Grandma had read the
Now,
books?
who did?
Your grandmother had
Grandma?
read the books?
Grandma read the book. Yeah, but okay. So he wakes up in a whorehouse. Now, when they get married and they have some smacks, it's all closed door. Because I remember her saying, Big Mama, because my grandmother was this little bitty lady, but everybody called her Big Mama. And I was like, what do you think the church is going to think? If I put out this book and it has, he's at a whorehouse and he's drinking and he's, they're like, she was like, well, that just happens. And I'm like, okay, it just happens. Whatever. But like I said, her belief in me was just so amazing. And so I ended, once again, I'm trying to reel it in. The whole reason, and so I self-published it, but my agent was like, you cannot put this book out under your name because you are on submission right now. And if they go and look at these sales and see that you aren't selling much, it's going to hurt your chances. So when I say how self-publishing was the dirty word in 2011, it really was. So Abby and Colleen had been, they'd put out their books, and I saw, hey, it's not the dirty word. They're, doing they're decent, so that's why we decided, our group of friends were like, we're going to write this adult book. It was, I don't know if you've read Emily Snow, Michelle Valentine, and Kelly Maine. I'm having to do their pen names because they're different names when we were in the young adult community. But we all got together, we were our beta readers, and we did this. We decided to write the book. I decided to write the proposition. So when you read the series and you read the office baby making scene, that was the first thing I ever wrote. They didn't even have names. It was basically to see if I could write a full-on scene. So that was the first. And I told my grandmother about it. And that a couple of weeks before she passed away, I was like, Big Mama, I'm writing this book, and it doesn't have closed door scenes. And she was like, oh, they Lord. If you're Southern, that they God, or that term. And I was like, I know. And she was like, well, okay. And, I know she was definitely looking down, or has been, and has enjoyed my career as wild and
I know she's proud of
as
you.
yes, even, the craziness of, and so whenever someone her age, or like my late mother's age, is like, oh, I read your books, I'm like, oh. I usually tell them, if you want to read my books, read The Road to Damascus. That's my safe out, because I'm like, it might have slight cussing, and then it does have, it's a darker book. There's lynching, and there's all kind of horrible things, because the South's history is pretty horrible.
It
And
is.
it is. And so, yes, but like I said to you, I it's still one that I'm proud of. And then I started writing young adult, because I wrote it, and then I saw I read Twilight. I became under the Twilight, whatever that was, curse, and so that's when I started writing young adult. And I met a lot of great people in the young adult world, and had my first agent, and then my second agent. When I wrote my motorcycle series, I get to say that I already have some 6 degrees of separation. My agent that I had at the time for young adult, Lee Feldman, she was the one who read and represented Cold Mountain. Charlie Hunnam was the weird albino guy in Cold Mountain. So I was
I
like,
want to
so
talk about your agent for a second too. How did you go about getting your agent?
back in the day, it was that you emailed them your like a query letter that said that was basically a summary of your book and like the couple of pages. So the first book I queried was Road to Damascus, that did not go very well. The first one, the young adult, was The Guardians, which was like a Twilight kind of thing, but it was angels in high school. See, I was still on the semi-religious path, still with that. And then I lost my first student. And in February, and I started, he was a male student, and I started thinking about how men grieve along with my own grief. We lost two friends like 6 months apart in high school to car accidents. And so I wrote this book called Don't Hate the Player, that's about this young guy who's been friends since kindergarten with this basically douchebag guy who's always the bully kind of guy, the most popular guy, but he accidentally blows himself up on a tractor. I don't know.
Wait,
I don't know. You're like,
what?
what? I don't know if you've ever seen Drop Dead Gorgeous, how that's kind of a, oh gosh, Denise
That was
Richards.
on Lifetime?
Well, Denise Richards, and it's kind of like a spoof of like beauty pageants, but it's also, it's like, I guess when I wrote Don't Hate the Player, it was kind of like a Heather's thing where there's humor, but it's dark. So I was kind of going for a dark humor vibe. So Jake is like the school man whore, and everybody dated him and slept with him. And so when Noah's helping his dad go through his room, they come across a diamond ring. And so there was some unknown girl that Jake was in love with and planned to propose to. And he was also changing. He was making his, he was doing better. He was he was all these different things to be a better person. And Noah was kind of like, what is going on with him? And so it's kind of the story of Noah grieving his best friend's loss, even though at times he was a real douchebag to him. And then also, the girl, trying to figure out who the girl is, and then hoping it's not the girl he's falling in love with too.
Was
Who
it the
was
girl
Jake?
he was falling in love with too?
Yes, it was Jake's tutor. So yeah, the good girl, whose dad's the Pastor Dan. So yeah. So as you guys can see, I have a book collection that's almost as ADHD as I'm talking right now. But when I say I've written everything, yeah, and then the young adults, but then the Proposition series happened, and then I did Music of the Heart, which is a rock star series. I ended up Penguin, who turned me down on Don't Hate the Player when it run out on submission with Lee Feldman, who did Cold Mountain. They were the ones that ended up picking up my motorcycle series, Vicious Cycle. All roads lead back to Charlie Hunnam again. And I guess 50 Shades, has such a part in my career, because I would have never written an adult novel had it been probably, I don't know, for the big huge swarm that was the 50 Shades craziness.
Oh, I
And
remember
then
that phenomenon.
I know, and then Charlie, was supposed to play Christian. So I started watching Sons of Anarchy because I wanted to see who this, even though I wasn't really a fan of 50 Shades. But I started watching it because I'm like, he's going to be Christian Grey, and everybody was like, eh. And then, damn it, if I didn't come up with a motorcycle series idea, and that's where Vicious Cycle, Redemption Road, and Last Mile comes in. It's authors get like I said, the ideas come from the strangest, places sometimes. And so I did that series. And when I decided to do the Mafia, I was like, oh, Katie, I don't know if you can really do dark. And I'm like, dumbass, you wrote a motorcycle series. The kid watches her mother get her throat slit in the preface, the prologue. So I'm like, I think you can handle a little Mafia. Trigger warning. Sorry, violence.
I'm just mad that I have not had the chance to come across and read these dang on books. They said, like, everything that I'm trying to like take notes. I bet people gonna be like, what the hell is she doing? I'm putting this shit
You're
in my
like,
phone.
which
So
book to read? Yeah, because I'm just, kind of hitting all of them. And like when I say, and here, no, you're not coming. You can say hello real quick and then go. This is my child who has snuck downstairs. Fix your top. This is Olivia. Can
hi,
get in the
Olivia.
screen? Say hello. When mommy's talking about her books, we got a late start, so you got to go back upstairs. I love
Look,
you.
Chilla, we're almost done. I'm gonna wrap it up with
Yeah,
mommy. She came to look for you, like, where you at?
Yeah, because my office is actually downstairs in our basement, and so well, it's finished, thankfully, and so I could hear the steps just like you heard before, and I was like, "Ah, crap, she's coming for me," you know.
So are you a full-time author? Or are you working somewhere?
I had been full time for 8 years, and then when I went through the dip of not putting anything out, I went back to teaching. Yeah,
English
so
teacher?
I'm actually high school special ed now. So, but
Okay.
I do teach English, yes. But it's so funny because, well, for 2 years I was a para at my daughter's school, and then I was like, okay, I'm doing everything that I did as a teacher. I'm gonna go back full because I'm single. If I had a man, maybe I could be doing this full time. But single people's health insurance when you have autoimmune diseases really sucks. So that was really part of why, I went back. Is like, I gotta get some decent health insurance because I'm gonna, be bankrupted from because I do infusions twice a year that are, I want to say, 8 or 10,000 a pop. So I had, yeah, Rituxan. Anybody else on Rituxan out there? So yeah, between that part, but I'm thankfully very, besides like the fatigue, the mind fatigue, I'm fine
Hmm.
physically. Thank goodness. I've been very blessed. There's a lot of people. I got diagnosed at 36. And actually I mentioned rheumatoid arthritis. Isla's mom passes away from it in Dust to Dust. And she talks, well, actually she doesn't. Sorry. There's something else that happens, but she has it. But she talks about how, her mom, she would see her mom in so much pain, and that's kind of reason why their financial situation is the way when she loses her parents is because her mom had been like an insurance adjuster. She had to quit her job. She couldn't get on disability, and they ate into their savings. So that's why she's going to have to go be stripping to pay for her college, her grad school. So that's how she ends up in Quinn's Club. Is she's and her sister is like,
What's the baby brother name?
Kellen,
Ke- Are we gonna see
of
Kellen's? You said
course.
Dare was the one that's gonna. When are we gonna get Kellen's story?
Kellen will be after Dare's story, and he is in Dust to Dust. A lot there. He's having trouble with what happened, and what he had to see, and so he kind of seeks out Isla. She first thinks he's there to try to get her to do more than she wants to, and he's like, no, I just want to pay to talk to you. I can't talk to anybody else. I'm a mafia man. I can't see a therapist. And when
He
you
got
at
to be
least,
hard.
yes. And so, she's lost her parents in a car accident. Her dad had a widowmaker heart attack, and her mom unbuckled to try to help get the car. And so that's how she ends up dying. She would have made it, like, because Isla was in the car with them too, but she, survived. And the mom would have, if she hadn't unbuckled her seatbelt, but that's something within. But yeah, Kellen he just came out on the page just so I loved. His name comes from another OG goddess, S.C. Stevens. She wrote Kellen Kyle. And I have always loved Kellen. He is one of my favorite book boyfriends. I think I read him in 2011, 2012 too. And so it just happens that Kellen is a good Irish name too. Because at first my beta reader was like, Callum, what, Callum and Kellen, this is getting confusing. I'm like, no, they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. It's going to be okay. And finding Irish names too, that you don't have to, I've read a lot of them that I have to go to the YouTube and figure out how to say them. Some of the Italian ones are like that too. Definitely Russian. You have to figure out if they don't have a pronunciation guide, you got to figure out how to
If you
say
read any of
that.
Serena Ackroyd, I had before I went and looked at because sometimes I have a tendency to just flip through and get to the
Mm-hmm.
actual book, like the first chapter one. And so I had been pronouncing the people name wrong this whole time.
Oh
Like,
yeah. I forget which one. I was reading, Lillian Harris, and she had oh gosh, the girl's name is Eru, I believe, Eru, and it's like Eriu or Uru. I mean, and then the sister's name is Isolta or Isolt, which because there's an English, there's a Welsh in there too, and so when I went to the thing, I was like, oh God, and like Russian names like Kirill is really Kirill, and like all these, I'm like, damn it, I've just been massacring these names. So I think when I put, and some people, I know, I've heard a review and someone was like Isla, and I'm like, oh no, it's Isla, and so it's almost like I need to put her name in there too, that's how you say, Isla. But in some of I'm trying to think if it was some of the Italian, I mean, I've had to Google them all. There's a YouTube channel if you need them. It's called How to Pronounce Names, and they've got this guy that gets on there and tells you how to say it, because I have been really, because even the little online things that tells you how to pronounce, nah, that doesn't help me. I have to go and actually have to hear
I'm
it. So
definitely
yeah.
gonna have to go and listen to the YouTube. That's why I like to listen to some of the audiobooks and stuff so I can actually hear how the names are pronounced and even some of the language. How sometimes there's a little
Yes.
language in their native language and stuff. I be
Well,
butchering that.
I was lucky. I by a fluke I ended up with a proofreader um who was Irish. And so I had been saying Gaelic when they say, like, instead of saying, oh, he said this to me in Irish, I said Gaelic, and she was like, no, we say Irish. I'm like, oh, okay. So thankfully she didn't say my slang or my stuff was too crazy, and I was like, oh, good. Or like, how I always laugh, and you can feel this being in Louisiana, like when you see movies of people in the South and they're always sweating profusely. And like, I love A Time to Kill, but Matthew McConaughey is like soaked through. And I'm like, the South, we're not like this, you
It's
know?
not, and then what really be getting me about the movies and stuff be the accents. I'm like,
Yes. Uh huh.
nobody talks like that.
Hmm. Now, my
Like,
grandmother, that generation was kind of a throw off, like the Savannah way. You don't pronounce your O's, darling, because I told you I did I wrote in Penny Reed's world in the Green Valley. She was a librarian. It was set in Tennessee. And at Book Bonanza, Chris Brinkley heard me read a scene. He's like, you know what? You should totally do the audiobook for this. And I'm like, oh, I was a theater nerd. Yeah, but no, I thought he was just being nice. And I got back home. He was like, no, I'm serious. Go find a studio and do it. So I had to do the fake accents sometimes to make her aunt sound different than just her. And then it was really hard, like lowering your voice to be the man. I mean, it was really wild, but it was also another one of my top things of getting to do was to voice your own book, and obviously I couldn't do these books because I'm too Southern. I can't do the Irish. I code switch a lot. If I hear people talk a certain way, I'll do that. Yeah.
honey, and I'm too country to be doing all of that too. For the most part, people be like, "Where you from?" South
I know.
Louisiana, and then they're like,
I
"What that's
never
close to?"
I never think I have an accent, and then people are like, "Oh no, you have an accent." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And it's also who I am with. If I'm trying to be with like people who speak very, but if I'm with my family, some of the, I'll start letting that drawl really come out and be real country, because that's where I'm from.
Because I'm real country,
I'm
so
real
country.
country. I mean, like I said, we got mountain people in my family, and I was laughing the other day because I was like, how it's kind of absurd how many Deliverance references I have made in some of my books to the movie Deliverance and hillbillies and things like that. But and I always laugh too because this one I was actually doing something with this before I came on.
Wait, the
This
new movie Deliverance?
No, no, no. The old movie Deliverance with like Burt Reynolds, and it's like about
Oh,
hillbillies who kidnap and kind of do something to these two guys, and it's about these really backwoods scary people. But this book, for some reason, Drop Dead Sexy, I'm trying to get there, has sold rights in Germany, foreign rights in Germany and Israel. This book is a Southern sex comedy mystery about a victim who dies, a very mild mannered pharmacist who dies, who has diphalia, which is two penises.
I was gonna say, why does that sound so dirty? Why does that sound so
So he
dirty?
has this. And so I'm thinking, how are these people in Germany and Israel reading? How do you even translate snake handling churches? I'm trying to think what else is in there that they have. A nudist colony. Like I'm like, what are these people thinking of the South and other countries when they read this book? That I mean, it was so fun to write, and I had a hilarious time doing it. But I always ask my agent, I'm like, we're not selling my other, like this is the one that they won, the Southern sex comedy where the girl is has been in a sex drought because her first attempt at sex ended with the guy with a latex allergy and his thing almost blowing up. The second one, the guy came and went on top of her. And so she's been in this drought. And so she finally decides when she goes to her mother's lingerie shower. Remember how I said I wrote that in a
Your
book about
grandma.
my great aunt's lingerie shower? Yes. She goes to her mother's lounge and she's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm single and it's not going to happen. So she hooks up with this guy who's a GBI agent, and then she's a coroner and a mortician, and has to, investigate this murder mystery. But I still sit here going, there's someone in Germany right now reading about um, backwoods nudist colonies. The Dixie Mafia, I do mention that in there too. And yeah, it's just craziness. So if you're wondering if you should read my books, you should, because there is something for everyone out there. I have some sports
Literally, like you
romance.
have
I mean,
so much range.
literally, yes. Uh-huh. I mean, it's not just that that for a while I was prolific, because I did write full-time 8 years. Was so blessed to get to, go to so many signings here in the US. My daughter had a passport at 2. She went to Rare Berlin with me at 2 years old. She's been to Italy. She's been to Paris. I'm like, Mommy didn't leave the country till she was 21 on a cruise ship. And that was just to go like the Bahamas on like a 3-day. And I'm like, you're over here with a passport, you spoiled little bougie thing. We haven't flown since before COVID, because that's when everything was kind of dying. Well, one, we didn't have signings for like 2 or 3 years. And then everything, was kind of crazy. And so we're going to California in 2 weeks during the break. And she was like, I just can't believe I haven't flown since 2000. I'm like, shut up. Mommy didn't even fly till I was 19. You little bougie girl, having to have to do a Stanley and all this stuff. Are
And I was
yours
older
that
than
way?
that.
Do
Oh
yours
my
care about the
God.
name? She's 9 and started caring about the name brand things. I thought I had about 2 more years, but she came home before school started and said, I need Nikes to start school in. I'm like, shit.
Mines are 4 and 8.
Okay, so you're about to get in that with the 8-year-old, yeah.
Not the 8, it's the 4 year. It's both
Oh,
of
4
them.
likes to be bougie? Oh, they like
But
to be bougie?
like food and like going places, like
Uh-huh.
not so much as Lulu, whoever Lululemon is, they're onto Lululemon. And so they
Mm,
think they have to have
yeah.
Lululemon everything. But it's the eating out, and all right, we'll be like, oh, you want to go to McDonald's? I don't want to go to McDonald's. I want Ronin Hibachi. Do you have Ronin Hibachi money?
Hibachi, yes. I'm like, Liv, do you know how much hibachi is? I mean, dang.
I want sushi. I want seafood. I'm like, I wasn't
Uh-huh.
even eating sushi at 3 and 4 years old.
No,
She can tell you what
no.
kind of sushi roll she wants.
At 4, oh my God, I love it. Well, with a lot of times it is just the 2 of us, so it is easy to pick up, stuff. But I kept telling her, I was like, we need to start eating at home. We've got to be better. We've got to, do. I'm about to get back on full time semaglutide. I don't mind saying it. Hopefully, when you see me again, readers, I will be slightly because I'm pre-diabetic, so I got to do it for medical reasons too. But I don't care. Y'all can be like, she's cheating. She's doing the jab, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm doing it. And it's funny because I won't name names, but I see so many authors now who have done it, and like there's been one that has come out and said, hey, I'm doing it. But so many that haven't, I'm like, I'm not going to be that person, because those people are talking shit about you behind your back. I'm going to be like, I am on it. I'm doing it.
I'm
Okay.
letting y'all know up front so you bitches don't talk about me behind my back
Yes,
because I'm telling
yes.
y'all that
When you
I'm
start
doing it.
seeing me all felt and everything, you're like, that bitch is on Ozempic. I'll be like, no, it's Monjaro. And I'm pre-diabetic and I have health shit I have to take it for. But because I had been on it before, and then you get out, and my daughter's so funny. She's like, oh God, are you going to take your shots again? Because it makes me have these, this is so TMI, burps that are just terrible. And she's like, oh, she calls them surfer burps instead of sulfur. She's 9 and still says, I'm like, they're not surfer. But anyway, anybody out there on semaglutide with sulfur burps, I feel your pain. So she's like, oh God, you're going to take it. But yes, because I've got to get serious about that. But yeah, I'm honest about it.
So, what's your next event? Where are we going to see you signing at, or what's next?
Yeah, I am going to be at Authors in the Bluegrass in Lexington, Kentucky. Love Kiki Chatfield and Next Step PR. They actually represented or did my PR stuff for the last 2 books. Then I'm going to be at Magic with the Bells in Orlando in March. Yeah. And then if I get I'm supposed to be there, and God, I always say this for international signings because it always seems like something crazy, but for Brits Book Fest in May. So I'll get to go across the pond again. And I'm hoping to go. I've never been to Belfast. I've been to Dublin. So I want to like go take my books and like take pictures of them in Irish, kind of places, and see the Titanic thing. Liv will be excited about it. And of course, she's going with me because she gets stuck going with me to everything. So
That's so
thankfully for in
nice.
October, my her godmother's going to come with us to that, and then we're going to go down with friends to the Disney one because while I'm signing, they're going to go to Disney. So
Oh, she's gonna love that.
I'm telling you this because we had so many Orlando signings back in the day. She was 18 months old the first time she went to Disney. And then when we didn't go, for a while, she's like, I can't believe it's been 2 years since I've been to Disney. I'm like, excuse you? Mommy got to go one freaking time when she was a kid and I was 9. I'm like, you're going to live, child. Okay. I'm like, I need to take her to that, whatever that experience it is, where they show you how people in underdeveloped countries have to live so that she'll be appreciative of what, she has.
When you find out what it is, send it to me so I can send mine too.
It must be like it must be this generation because I have so many friends who say the same things. They're like, my kid just does not, and she has a good heart. Like yesterday, we had to go to the shelter for the doggy shelter to take some stuff. I meant to have on my volunteer. Another thing about me, besides the other 9,000 things, is we're a foster house for kitties. So we're actually about to foster fail with a kitten. God. Because the rest of the litter got adopted and we've had her sleeping with us and now we're way too attached. So yeah.
So you can't
But
let her go.
no, we can't let her go. And she's thankfully getting along with the dogs. We have 2 dogs and we have two cats. And so we're soon to have 3. But she ran out to get the ice cream money that she had for next week. She ran out of the car and got to put in for the animals. So she's selectively caring. Now, like in that case, she was like, oh, I got to donate to the animals. If we see a homeless person, she wants to do that, especially if they have a dog. She's like me. If you could just be a horrible person, but if you're homeless with a dog, I'm not going to care. I'm going to give you, everything. So, and I'm never one of those people. I'm always like, if I feel something, this is like a nudge. This is the universe telling me I need to do it. He may go buy alcohol with it, but who cares? I did I did the thing that I felt, God or the universe, whatever you believe in, nudging me to do. So I've got to try that. But hopefully, she'll be a little less bougie, but
Miss Katie, can you tell us where we can follow you at on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook?
all of them. No, yes, I am at. You can follow. Do you want like a handle or like what? Do I need to tell them
Yeah,
the?
is your handle the same on all like across the
I
board?
want to say it is Katie Ashley Love on Instagram. I'm Katie Ashley Romance on Facebook. And then TikTok, I might be. Hang on, let me see. I'm really starting to try to get TikTok. I went against it for so long. I am author Katie Ashley on there, but you're gonna see me posting and stuff. In fact, that was one thing I worked on before we sat down was getting my setup in here ready to be a little bit better. So I got to do it. We got to whore ourselves wherever we can.
We do. Do you have a bookish website or anything?
I do. I am katieashley.books.com, and I'm working with someone to get my TikTok shop set up, and I will have some sprayed edges really soon and hopefully some little roses and sprayed for poison and wine and dust to dust. And I was so lucky I found someone local in Atlanta so I can take the books to them and make sure, because a lot of the companies you don't know, they're overseas, and I'm a little scared to order like 500 books and then come back like, looking a little scary. So I'm like, this is so great. And it helps the local business too, because we're all out there hustling.
Yes. Yes, we are.
For sure.
Well, I thank you for coming on and talking to us today.
I'm so excited. Like I said, thank you so much for having me, letting an old dog do some new tricks in the book world.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, make sure you are following Miss Katie Ashley. And of course, make sure you're following me.
Of course.
Download this episode. Make sure that you go and pick up Poison and Wine and Dust to Dust.
Mhm.
And then we are waiting for Maid Story.
Woo.
And we are waiting for Kel. Look, listen, I am so ready for his story. So I'm
Mhm.
going to make sure to be on her and keep you guys updated for when it
It
drops.
will be February. They're going to be every 3 months. So I promise he's coming. Seamus is getting a book. Her brothers are all getting book. Everybody's getting. It's Oprah. Everybody gets a book.
You get a book. You get a book. You get a
You get a
book.
book. You get a book. You get a book. Then we're going to go to a sideways Russian breakfast series with someone that one of the brothers gets. So there's just going to be Mafia
You said
everywhere.
with someone that one of the brothers get, are we gonna get like an MM?
Maybe. Not telling you yet.
Now, how she drop that T when it's time to go? How she
That's
knew what she was doing.
because that's time to go tea.
That's a T-shirt.
A time to go tea. I'm gonna trademark that. No, none of y'all better be out there doing it.
Don't steal this lady shit now.
No. I'll be coming after you. I mean, I already said I got mountain people. We'll go Deliverance on you. Not the new Deliverance, the old one with the creepy
The
hillbilly.
old, I didn't even watch the new Deliverance, honey.
I
I'm
know I've seen
scared.
so many funny memes about that. I'm like, I gotta watch this.
So until next time, you guys, we are signing
All
out.
right. Thanks.